Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I constantly ask the question, who am I, and why am I here? I don't have an answer. I keep asking, but I don't know. And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Thunderbolts Thursday. Yes, we return once again to the wonderful world of off-brand TED Talks for education and enlightenment. And yes, even though this will date the stream, so to speak, I did just a little while ago get out of a showing of Thunderbolts, the new MCU movie. I'm in fact in the process of making a little video review of my thoughts on said movie. I recorded some stuff when I got home. I'll be throwing that together into an actual video, not a live stream, that I'll post either later tonight or early tomorrow morning, depending on how my energy goes. But look forward to that. But elsewise, before we get into tonight's topic, who's joining me on this beautiful Thursday evening? Keeverdam. Good evening, and thank you, Keeverdam, for providing the link to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society donation page. Guys, when you have the opportunity at the top of the chat box, if you could please take a look at that. If you're able to donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam, for providing the link. Advocatus Diaboli, good evening. Walter Tomaszewski, good evening. Who else is here? Mike R., hello. The Alexander, hello. Shady Grin, hello. The Mr. E. Triumvirate, for he is 3. Not Legion, but 3 is he. Good evening. Funtime Bats, hello. Attack Alpaca, good evening. Green Death, hello. Brian Morissette, hello. Fostonia, hello. The Almighty Blackaz, good evening. I feel sorry for you had to go see a Marvel movie. I didn't have to, but I wanted to be able to talk in an informed manner about it when I'm on Midnight's Edge in the morning tomorrow, even though they already went over and did like a whole review. I haven't read any reviews of the movie before this, and no offense to anybody at Midnight's Edge, I did not watch any of their roundtable reviews. I wanted whatever I thought about it to be entirely my own thoughts, so when I post my video review later on tonight or tomorrow, just know that if I happen to duplicate anything anyone else has said, it's all just coincidence. But I got a couple. I think I have a couple of good quips in there. I think I have a couple of good catchphrases and such. We'll see. Derek LaRue, good evening to you, and thank you, Derek, as always, for your amazing generosity and support. Very much appreciated. Hope you're having a good evening, and I hope that you enjoyed the show. JPS, he. All right. Liana Johnston, am I late? Only your gynecologist knows for sure. Maybe that was not appropriate. I don't know. You decide. You decide. And Random American, good evening. And to anyone else I missed, anybody lurking, anybody in the future, good evening. Was that too much, Keeverdam? Was that too much? What do you want? What do you want? I just had a really long walk. I'm all hyped up. I got a Pepperjack here. It's blame it on the Pepperjack, yeah. Anyway, all that being said, let's get on with tonight's show. What is tonight's topic? Well, let me tell you something. I am what you might call a TED expert at this point, and if there are 2 words that I see more often than not in TEDx titles of presentations, it is one or a combination of these 2 words, passion and purpose. Passion and purpose. If you did a search on the TEDx YouTube page for passion and or purpose, you'd probably find an endless number of presentations that contain that word or a combination of the 2. But there is a runner-up. A new challenger has entered the arena in the last couple of years, and that is AI, or artificial intelligence. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen entire blocks of presentations that contain the phrase AI somewhere in them. How AI will solve the climate crisis. How AI is going to make Hollywood irrelevant. And like just a couple of weeks ago, we did a double feature. It was like how AI is going to solve cocoa plant farming. It's all over the place. And 9 times out of 10, when they bring up AI, they're not actually talking about AI, or they don't even tell you what AI is going to do in this situation. They just like to use it as a buzzword because it gets people's attention, and I've become kind of inured to it. But once in a while, as is the case tonight, once in a while, you get a title that makes me ask too many questions not to be curious enough to want to know what the answers may be. The way AI sees queer people undermines progress. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. When I first saw this title, I kind of thought back to a couple of TEDx's I did years and years ago now that had to do with chatbots, or specifically personal, digital assistant kind of deals, like Siri and Cortana. And apologies to anybody that just had their device go off because I said that. But anyway, the argument at the time was, oh, this is a sexist thing. All of these devices have female voices. You can ask them dirty, dirty things and they can't defend themselves. They're programmed by men. They're managed by men. They're updated by men. They create this sense that a female is a subservient individual to everyone else, that they're there to take your orders and do your bidding. It's sexist. That's what I remember. Also, my rejoinder was, well, if you change the voice to a male voice, does that mean that women have to go to a man to answer all their questions? Oh, don't want to talk about that one. Anyway, so when I saw this title, I thought to myself, okay, how is AI going to quote-unquote undermine progress for queer people? So I don't know what the lady's going to say. I haven't watched this ahead of time, but I'd like to speculate. I'd like to speculate that either the main or part of the argument is going to be something to the effect that AI has to draw on banks and banks and banks of data that has been collected over the course of all of human existence. And in the majority of human existence, it has dealt with heterosexual relationships and has relied on the inherent nature of the gender binary. Therefore, when you go to AI for any information or otherwise, it's going to be referring back to you whatever it knows through a heteronormative lens. And in that wise, it is undermining progress for queer people, which is itself a complete abstraction and could mean anything at any time. As we've seen on this channel before, remember queering your family therapy practice? I don't know if you remember that. I remember that. What did it mean? Still don't know. But anyway, tonight's bingo card is bingo card A, as selected by you on the bingo card poll over on the Twitter machine, or sorry, the X machine. I keep forgetting. If you'd like to follow me over on X, you can see me there at the bottom of the corner. The bottom corner at scribe_light over on X. And you too can join in on the poll each week and follow my misadventures in the wonderful world of X. So get your bingo cards ready. Links are in the description for the bingo cards. Bingo card A. Any more hellos before I get into this? The lovely Sherry, good evening. Simon Willikins, hello. Anybody else? Oh, 01 Portnoy, hello. And I think that's everybody. All right, if I missed you again, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, make yourself known, and I'll say hello. Oh, like Toot Sweet, hello. All right, this one clocks in at 15 minutes, just a smidge over. I'm going to turn off the music here just to make sure. Now, here's the thing. I had to pump up the volume, so to speak, actually literally, on this one quite a bit because it was probably one of the most quietly recorded TEDx's I've seen recently. It was a bare whisper. I don't think in my boosting the audio, it increased the level of static. Didn't seem so at the time for the little bit I was listening to make sure the levels were okay. But who knows? We'll find out together. Anyway, again, the question before us is, the way AI sees queer people undermines progress. Let's find out how that works. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed. Oh, wait. Who's this? What's this? What's this? There's a Chaos Eve. Hello, Chaos Eve. Long time no talk. Hope you're doing well. Everybody, this is Chaos Eve. A long, no, you're not that old, time friend of the show. What was your Lords of the Night name? I forget now. I know P-Dog was Lord of Jurisprudence. You were the Lord of Passion? I think it was Passion, wasn't it? which is actually kind of funny given that it's one of the 2 keywords of most TEDx show. Yeah, okay. Lord of Passion. I thought so. See, my memory hasn't left me yet. Also, the best Remy, hello. All right, here we go.
Imagine this scenario.
Imagine this scenario. You guys hear that okay? Let me know in the chat. Get a little swig of my drink there to prepare me for this. Let's see. And also, Kay Roberts. Hello. Hearing test. Thought I was allowed to enjoy my tinnitus in solitude. Oh, sorry. Yeah, your tinnitus. Yes, we hear it. All right, here we go.
You're a teenager.
I'm a teenager? Oh, boy, am I in trouble.
And you're a little bit nervous and a little bit uncertain. And you have a lot of questions.
Sure.
And the questions revolve around feeling different, feeling different from the others.
Yeah.
And it feels very unsafe to explore with others because you're maybe wondering, perhaps you're queer.
Or maybe I'm wondering, perhaps I am just a teenager, because if there's a more awkward time of life, aside from, being an adult in a Punisher t-shirt going to a comic book movie on a Thursday afternoon, it's being a teenager. But sure, okay. Why would I wonder that in particular?
Feels unsafe to explore with your peers at school or in other places that you might explore.
So instead, go to AI for the answers. Is that it?
So instead, you go online on some kind of platform where you have an AI chatbot like ChatGPT to converse with, and you start asking these questions.
Why would you do that? Okay, I'm sorry. The premise we're starting off with is ridiculous to me. Like, not too long ago, I asked an AI chatbot on, I think it was Google, a question. I was trying to find out what was the production budget for a film, and I think it was A Death of a Unicorn. And the first answer it gave me was something like $118 million. Like, holy cats, that's an expensive movie. And it still sounded a little odd, so I asked it again, and it said $25 million. Like, oh, that's really cheap. I asked it a third time, it said $70 million. AI is not a reliable source for information on human interaction. And especially in this day and age, you don't need to go to AI to discuss these things. So already our speaker is failing at the start. But okay, let's pretend. Let's pretend that in the modern world, you have nowhere else to go to and no other people to contact and no other resources to consult about such things except AI. Let's pretend.
You start asking questions about gender and sexuality, and the bot responds. Now, what do we know about that response?
Am I going to be psychic on this? Am I going to be psychic? The massive data sets that it's drawing from are predominantly heteronormative, and that's a problem, right?
It is going to pretend that it knows the answer to everything, or pretend, or at least look like.
Sort of like most TEDx talkers.
It will know all about sexual orientation, identity, gender, everything about the acronym LGBTQ, even the plus.
Even the plus? I'm not even sure I know what the plus stands for these days, although I've heard some theories.
It will know everything. So the difference between you and the chatbot in this situation is quite stark.
Yes, I'm a human being who has a mind, and the chatbot is just a machine. It's true. It's quite a stark difference.
You are uncertain, you're nervous, you're anxious, you know so little, and you have so many questions, and the bot looks oracular. It seems to know everything.
Underscore the word seem. Where are the parents in this, by the way? Has this teenager lived in the world to an extent where they have any notion of how AI works or how accurate it is in the modern day? Just wondering. Also, Gen T Maxi, good evening. It's also not just gonna lie to you unless you ask it to, which is what I think the speaker is really upset about. Oh, hi chat, hi Script, hi Gen T Maxi. My condolences on your country's current political tumult until the next political tumult in like 18 months or something. The Dead Man, good evening. Okay, so I'm a confused teenager. I have nowhere else to go. I ask AI for answers. Please, AI, tell me true. The answers to life, the universe, and everything else, especially about my personal uncertainties of my drives and hormones and sexuality at the most confused time of my life, where anything I think on one day may completely change the next day because I'm a teenager. But okay.
So whatever the bot ends up saying, it's likely to have an influence on how you're going to start articulating your own identity, your own personality, and questions around your sexuality.
Really? You think so? Well, I feel sorry for the teenager that decides to craft their personal outlook on the world based on an AI chatbot.
In other words, it's going to have an impact on how we as humans form the knowledges that we have.
What?
And that knowledge itself is going to be potentially impacted by the AI.
Okay, so I'm going to abdicate all of my personal agency, all of my personal sense of self, any experiences I've had or interpretations of experience that I've made, all of that I'm going to give over to the AI. That's the only way that this would work. That's it. Let's go over to the bingo card, remind ourselves what we are listening for tonight. This is bingo card A, everyone. Again, links are in the description of the bingo cards. Bingo card A, collectivizes own demographic. Not yet, per se. Systemic or institutional, you might get there. Sales pitch for product or service. I'm waiting to see if our speaker has her own custom AI model or something that she's setting up. Childhood or family anecdote? Not yet. We've only had a sort of abstract concept of a teenager. Diversity, equity, and or inclusion? Not explicitly yet. Plays victim? We'll see. Microaggressions or unconscious bias? Might get there. Privilege? Contradicts own point or fails to make argument? We'll wait. Patriarchy? No. Deceptive statistics? None yet. Economic disparity? No. Feminism? No. Marginalized marginalization? We're not far away. A list? I'm going to wait and see if there's a formal list. She's already listed off some elements of what you might look up AI for information on, but white supremacy, no. Word salad, we might get there. Self-vilification or wretchedness, not yet. Weightless example or non sequitur, no. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. Mind reading or assumes motives. Benevolent condescension. I don't know, does that quite make it yet? Anecdote that probably never happened. We haven't had an actual anecdote so far. It's just a scenario. And lastly, leaves out vital context. Well, I'm still thinking that leaving out other human beings in the teenager's life is leaving out vital context, but we're still working on it. So far, nothing to circle on the board explicitly yet.
So this scenario is far from hypothetical, although I made it up in this particular case.
So it is hypothetical. A
2024 study by Common Sense Media, Hope Lab, and the Harvard Graduate School of Education
the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Boy, Harvard's looking real good these days.
Center for Digital Thriving found that about half of young people had already used generative AI in their lives.
Yeah, mostly to make photographs of Sydney Sweeney in a bikini. But that's just a hypothetical I made up out of whole cloth.
And in fact, of those people, about half of them used it first and foremost to get information.
That is a sad thing to know, because AI is decidedly not reliable.
Now, that information was not restricted to finding out about, historical facts or math or whatever, but rather it importantly revolved around intimate, emotional questions.
Intimate, emotional questions. Are you talking about like where you have a chatbot and you say, "Hi, chatbot, I'm sad." "Why are you sad, human being?" "I just feel down." There are many ways in which you can treat sad, that kind of thing. So young people, that's a pretty large demographic, 14 to 22, okay, and 53% of young people ages 14 to 22 are using it to get information. Okay. Half of young people, so 53% of that 51%, is that? Okay. So half of the half are you? All right. Sorry, I'm an English major, not a math major.
Relating to the human experience. So, for example, one of the participants said that AI helps me ask questions without feeling pressure.
Okay.
Another participant said, AI has already tapped into the sex market, and it has characters that are influencing people.
Tapped into the sex market? It sounds like the red light district in Amsterdam or something. What is... I mean, I know it has, because everybody wants their digital girlfriend. They want their Scarlett Johansson from Her or whatever.
My point is not to be alarmist, but rather to observe the fact that regardless of whether we're queer or not yet queer, or maybe never going to be queer,
because it's all really a journey to answer that question. Really, I as you guys all know, life's journey. The big question that hangs over everyone's head is: are you or are you not queer? I know that keeps everybody up at night as they go from childhood into teenagehood on to adulthood. I know it's like I keep wondering, how queer am I?
AI has a potential to influence the way that we understand ourselves, our identities, our gender, and our sexuality as well, even for intimate questions.
Not okay. I am showing my age. I didn't need a computer to learn about my sexuality. It was through interacting with people. It really was. And if there are kids out there that are trying to decipher their inner workings through asking an AI, again, I feel bad for them, and I really hope that their parents are paying attention.
So it becomes very important for us to understand how AI comes up with the knowledge that it gives back to us.
And is it drawing from banks of data that are primarily created by and dealing with heteronormative society?
And what kind of knowledge it creates.
Now,
in my research, I dissect AI algorithms, and what I do is I try to figure out, how do they come up with that knowledge? What is their knowledge-making process? And what I find is that we can describe that process quite succinctly as a statistical knowledge-making process.
Statistical knowledge-making process. I think we're taking the long, circuitous, scenic route to what my suspicion was at the top of this episode. I'm going to seem smart by the end of this, aren't I?
Now, what does that mean?
I don't know. Tell me.
Essentially, what it means is that the algorithms comb through a vast trove of data, and as they do that, they try to distill that data into patterns. So they try to identify patterns.
Yes. And again, as always, I apologize for the constant pausing. I do have to make this a transformative work of commentary and criticism. So every minute or so, I do have to pause. I might be overcautious. I'm not quite sure what the time limit is before I might get dinged by YouTube, but better safe than sorry.
And then they use those patterns, in the case of generative AI, to create new output. Now, other types of AI do other stuff with those patterns. Don't want to talk about predictive AI here. I'm going to focus on generative AI.
I'll take your word for it.
Generative AI uses those patterns to create output that looks new. That's why it's in quotation marks. It looks new, but it actually conforms to those patterns.
And the patterns are predominantly heteronormative. So how can heteronormative data sets correctly or safely inform someone who's looking for information that does not conform to the majority?
So to give you an example from large language models, what large language models do, for example, is as they comb through the data, they might find patterns like that drag queens, for example, are frequently described with words like glamorous and fabulous.
They can be described that way, sure.
Another pattern that they might also find is that glamorous and fabulous frequently stand in the similar or same positions in language in sentences as words like gorgeous and stunning.
They could. And?
So now the large language model might use these two patterns, put them together, and come up with new output that looks something like this. These drag queens are gorgeous.
Sure. It could happen. And what is that supposed to... Okay. I'm dumb. And an English major. These two things can be mutually exclusive. Okay, yes, this is a thing that could happen, I suppose. The AI, which is a machine and can't actually see or assess anything, could just say that, huh?
But now let's pause for a second.
Okay, let's do so.
And just consider for a moment that the data that these models use to train their algorithms to come up with those patterns, that data is essentially all of the internet.
All of the internet.
And if you think for a moment about what we know about the internet, what kind of place the internet is, what other patterns do you think are likely that these algorithms might come up with?
Words you don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we go back to Tay. Microsoft issues apology over racist chatbot fiasco. South Korean AI chatbot pulled from Facebook after hate speech towards minority. Okay, so, all right, so AI is pulling from all of human information and taking all sorts of ideas and notions and aggregating them into answers or quotations or whatever else. And unfortunately, it has to come from human knowledge rather than making it up on its own to make you happy. And it turns into one big joke. Okay, what do you think the proposed solution to this will be? Is it censoring? Is it policing? What do you think? Professor R2 is in the house. Hey, Professor R2. The Tay thing was so dumb, they literally just got it to repeat phrases back. Yeah. Then there was that, I forget what it was. It was like, it was something to do with, I think, Coca-Cola. And the people tricked it into reproducing portions of Mein Kampf or something to form a picture of a Coca-Cola can or so. This is several years ago. Yeah, if you unleash a public-oriented chatbot or something onto the internet, trolls are going to troll. And if the information it's drawing from is going to be like Tumblr and Reddit and 4chan, you get what you ask for. But okay, again, what is our speaker going to propose as a solution to this problem?
So we've got a bit of a problem here.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's actually kind of hilarious.
These models have a tendency to produce hate speech or at
Oh, they produce things you don't like to hear?
least offensive language.
Oh, offensive language. Oh, no.
Language is going to be problematic.
Oh, language is going to be problematic, you say. Ah, shucks. Well, I guess the only thing now to do is language police, huh?
Now, tech developers are going to be the first to tell you, yes, this is a major problem. So we started working on it. And
we started working on it, putting up filters and censoring things and deciding what is or is not information someone should have access to. Yeah, I read 1984 back in high school.
Worked a lot on it and came up with a lot of advanced fine-tuning methods. And these methods have allowed us to actually improve these models so that they don't create that kind of output. We restrict the output that these models produce. And so we're actually able to correct for this problem.
Yeah, we're actually able to censor and, disallow someone from making up their own mind instead and just tell them what we think they should know and what to see. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. Yeah, I got to give it to them. To some extent, they've certainly worked on this.
But
They have business interests to do so. They've worked on this.
But
And the models tend to, or they're doing much better these days anyway,
But I'm waiting for the but.
to avoid these kinds of problems. But here's the thing.
But here's the thing.
That has not fixed the underlying deeper problem.
Oh, the underlying deeper problem. What is the underlying deeper problem?
because that problem has to do not so much with what the output is, but rather with the structure of knowledge making itself.
The structure of knowledge making itself. Pardon me, I'm just absorbing this for a second. The structure of knowledge making itself. Knowledge making. Here's a question. Does AI possess knowledge? No, I'm getting kind of philosophical here. Does AI, like in the current modern construction of such, does AI possess knowledge? Or is AI simply regurgitating concepts?
And in order to understand that, what we're going to need is we're going to need about 2 minutes of queer theory.
Oh, goody! I love queer theory. It can be anything and everywhere all at once. Oh boy, the answer to these problems, guys, the answer to problematic language from AI chatbots doesn't matter the subject matter. The answer is queer theory. Okay. Tell me true. 2 minutes of queer theory. All right, let's solve the world's problems. Go ahead.
In order to understand that problem.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and dive into 2 minutes of queer theory.
Yay!
So queer theory tells us that concepts of knowledge, for example, concepts like gender and sexuality, are not pre-given or natural.
Gender and sexuality are not pre-given and are not natural. Queer theory tells us, it all sounds very religious when you frame it that way, doesn't it? Okay, queer theory tells us that gender and sexuality are not natural,
but rather that they are formed through humans repeatedly performing certain kinds of behavior, most often unconsciously, so that these behaviors congeal into patterns that we associate with particular contexts, like gender.
Or there is a observable, provable, biological binary between the sexes. Maybe. I know. I'm just throwing this out here. I know it's a crazy concept. Okay. Queer theory tells us, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes?
So this theory is called the theory of performativity. It's most famously associated with the philosopher Judith Butler, but it actually goes back way, way further into the 50s to language theorists J.L. Austin and John Searle.
Oh man, I love me some John Searle and Judith Butler. I can't get those names out of my head. I mean, they're as household as spoon and fork. Okay.
Who argued that language paradoxically does not only describe the world, but it in fact creates the world.
Ooh, language creates the world. Ooh, yeah, if you know the secret name of the angels, you can alter the forces of reality, don't you know? I think that was in a tabletop game I played once.
Now, what does that mean?
I don't know. What does queer theory have to tell us about it?
Essentially what it means that the concepts that we use to make sense of the world, and again, we can use gender as an example.
Well, sure, let's just randomly, just by happenstance, use gender as an example, huh?
They're not just like free-floating out there, but rather they come into being by humans repeating the same kind of language scripts, the same kind of patterns in language over and over again.
Oh, so like when different cultures who evolved far separate from one another come up with individual words to describe male and female, it's just happenstance. It's not because we're describing two demonstrably different kinds of human beings or something. Okay.
When they use to describe those concepts or when they use those concepts to talk about the world.
Right.
Let's use an example here.
I love examples.
So for example, think about the notion of gender. Think about the notion that is relatively common, I would say, that men are more assertive than women.
Men are more assertive than women. Okay, yes, that is a common stereotype about men.
Which I think is, somewhat common today.
Okay, common. Do you know why it's common? Here's the thing. There's a reason that the stereotype exists about men, is because it is commonly observed amongst men as compared to women. Now, that's not to say you can't have an assertive woman, but on balance, when it comes down to stressful situations or competitive situations, more often than not, men are markedly more assertive than women. So, okay, proceed.
But if you could explain that notion using this theory by noticing that historically, in those domains of social life where assertive behavior and assertive language was required, for example, politics or law, these domains of life were typically only open to men.
Yeah, typically only open to men, and on balance, men were more interested in pursuing them than women most times. Not all the time, but most times.
So what that meant is that certain groups of people, men, were both allowed and also required to perform in these ways.
Or there was a natural inclination amongst the male of the species that promulgated over the centuries into vocations and elements of daily life and so on that just ended up reflecting what was already naturally there amongst men. I know maybe my theory is just too wackadoodle. I don't know.
Right? So over time, other groups were not allowed to do this. So over time, essentially, these ideas solidified around the concept of male gender.
Right. Okay. And since we started having, at least in America, I don't know exactly where this talk is taking place. Since then, when civil rights came about and the sexual revolution occurred, and nearly all of the previously enforced barriers between what women were allowed to do versus what men did do fell away, all the women's have decided to fill in those gaps between the disparities between where men and women were in different vocations and stuff. And that's why we never hear the end of there's not enough women in this vocation or there's not enough women in that vocation. So obviously sexism. Not a matter of personal choice, not a matter of recognizable patterns of behavior between the two sexes. No, it must be some kind of reinforced and enforced societal shackles that are placed on everybody's necks. Okay.
Even though that does not have to be the only possible way of being. Mm-hmm. And my point is not who is being harmed by this.
Yes, it is. You're crafting a victim narrative. But okay.
Because arguably everybody is being harmed by it.
Contradicts herself immediately after. Yeah, okay, great. That was great. Okay, is there nothing I can circle on the board yet? Huh. I don't know. I'm so engrossed in this. We'll have to do a full review at the end of this unless something is really explicitly said here. But
my point is that the theory of performativity tells us that these concepts are not natural or pre-given. They have arisen through the repeated use of language.
Okay, so you want to change the language to alter people's minds. Okay. I'm going to need an active example. Give me an example of words like muad'Dib that affect physical reality and people's, outcomes that you would change to put them in the way that you prefer personally.
And you can notice that this concept was so entrenched by the time that the women's suffrage movement came along that many people opposed that movement by arguing, well, women are fundamentally incapable of any kind of assertive behavior or language.
Yes, until you ask anybody. If you ask any man about, oftentimes, the power and respect their mothers commanded amongst them, then you'd probably get a different answer. But anyway, suffrage was a long time ago. Why don't you talk about now rather than something that's like over 200 years ago now, nearly.
even thinking, right? If that notion sounds foreign to us today, then that is only because certain people decided to actively intervene in those scripts of language and of behavior.
Yes, society and societal mores and norms have changed over time. You're correct. And what does this have to do with correcting for AI?
But what has this got to do with AI?
Hey, that's exactly what I was asking. I know I don't really have much of a foothold on this one, but all the same. What does this have to do with AI? What is your proposal to solve for AI spouting off bad words and problematic language?
Well, if you think back to the schema that I drew up earlier
I'm trying my best.
about data, patterns, and new output,
Yes.
and you also think about the fact that data, per definition, comes from the past because
Data comes from the past. All data comes from the past because you found out about it a second ago. If data is coming from the future, then we've got a whole other problem going on.
we're not able to collect data from the future,
Yeah, okay.
and also from right this moment, we are able to collect data, but we can only analyze it by the time it has become the past. Well, if you think about that, the data is from the past,
Yeah, the data's from the past.
and AI essentially takes that data and identifies patterns, and you put that together with the notion of scripts, well, then you recognize that what is AI going to discover?
AI doesn't discover anything. AI regurgitates information. It may do so in a cohesive way that can be understood by somebody, but it's not making discoveries. Unless you set AI out to do calculations of things that have yet to be calculated, then it may discover something, but the only person who can assess that as a discovery versus just nonsense would be a human being. But boy, and I thought Thunderbolts gave me a headache.
It's going to discover those scripts
No, it doesn't.
from the past.
What?
Those scripts that we have been fighting against, that we
Okay, those scripts we've been. Okay, yeah, I was right. I was right. All that data is so heteronormative.
have been trying to push back against.
Push back against words and concepts that don't make you happy. We've been trying to fight. So you're going to cleanse knowledge so that people only know and are only allowed to think about the things that you've approved of. You want to step back for a second and think about what you're implying here?
So essentially, AI is only ever going to give us those same old scripts.
And your proposed solution is?
AI cannot modify those scripts because the recognition of patterns, that is what AI is. So this is a structural thing. This is the structure of knowledge making.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take systemic or institutional. That's close enough for me. Also, the institutional definitions or assumptions about gender and so on, circling that on the board. Also free space. I'm getting ready. Let's see. Plays victim. I think she said before, we're all victims of this, that, or the other. And she's definitely crafting a victim narrative of how AI is saying the wrong things and making the wrong conclusions. So far on the board, systemic or institutional, plays victim, free space. There's probably others I could circle, but we'll wait on that.
That AI is built on.
Sorry, let me back up a little bit just to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Patterns, that is what AI is. So this is a structural thing. This is the structure of knowledge making that AI is built on.
It doesn't make knowledge.
So to put this in other words that are maybe a little bit more colloquial,
I love more colloquial language.
AI is basically when you have history without innovation.
History without innovation. sure, you could take a history textbook and come to the same conclusion about it, because it is the written word that was written by somebody in the past, and it'll always be in the past. What are you trying to get at? Again, you have described a problem at the top of this talk. AI models offer problematic answers to questions or allow for the manipulation of the output to be something that is offensive. And so, what do you propose be done?
Let that sink in.
I can't. I'm just too dense.
AI is basically, if we had had AI throughout history, we would never have had women's vote.
If we had AI throughout history, we would have never had women's vote. What? Why?
We would never have been able to conceive of marriage as between anyone else than a man and a woman.
What? Wait. So, again, because AI is now a thing in the world, everyone on the planet has completely abrogated their own critical thinking skills, all of their personal lived experience, I love that phrase, don't you, and are unable to conceptualize anything that AI does not allow it to know. Are you kidding me?
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
I mean, you're talking about sources of information, right? If I go to AI to answer a question, it's effectively no different, mechanically speaking, than if I go to an encyclopedia for an answer to a question on a topic, or if I go to a library and use the Dewey Decimal System to find a book or something on a topic, right? Okay, the mechanism is exactly the same. The output is always questionable because the output is always coming from a biased source, whether I'm talking about an encyclopedia written by a person or an output written by an AI. And yet, despite the fact that libraries and books and research papers have been created and collected and were available to people all throughout history, somehow, some way, society has still changed. Our thoughts on certain things have evolved or devolved depending on the circumstances. But now that AI exists, everything comes to a screeching halt. What are you talking about?
Inconceivable.
Inconceivable!
That did not happen in the data. We would never have invented a neutral pronoun, they.
We would have never invented a neutral pronoun, they. What the fuck are you talking about?
And that would never have come into use.
What?
So basically, what tech developers will rush to tell you, well, not so much the developers, more the companies,
Well, then why mention the developers?
is that, but this is a data problem. It's not a structural problem. It's a data problem.
What's a data problem? What are you talking about? Bad language getting into AI output? What? Ah!
And to some extent, you would argue that that's right, because obviously the data is full of these harmful patterns.
Harmful patterns. Oh, the harm. Oh, God. I'm harmed. I'm so harmed. Oh, the pain. The pain. Oh. AI, tell me, what was the production budget of Death of a Unicorn? It was $118 million. Oh, God, the pain. You were wrong. It was $70 million. It was $25 million. Oh, God, no. What the hell?
Right?
Right.
Here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
There's actually nothing wrong with the data.
There's nothing wrong with the data. Yeah, there's something wrong with you.
If you think about it.
I've been doing my best to think about this for the last nigh on an hour.
The data, which is truly very harmful, it has a lot of racism in it, as our previous speaker suggested.
Your previous speaker? Okay, well, I guess this was a whole set.
It has a lot of homophobia, transphobia, ableism, ageism, and so on.
If you say so.
But that data does what data typically is supposed to do, which is it reflects the world. And
Yes, it reflects the world. You know how many answers to historical questions AI has drawn from Reddit? You want to guess the quality of that? When you think about if AI is drawing from the whole of the internet, where do you think the most text resides on the internet right now? Message boards. Reddits and 4chans and 8chans and God knows what else, and Tumblr. It's not just the most prestigious libraries or something. Yeah, shit posting informs more AI than what you're going to find in the Library of Congress.
the world is a homophobic, a racist, a transphobic, an ableist place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I guess never leave your house. Never hope for better. If that's what AI is producing, then we'll never evolve beyond that. In fact, I'm sure there won't be any laws or social movements that'll continue forward into the future because AI has bad words on it.
The data does what data can do per definition. Reflect the world from the past.
Or it reflects a version of reality as produced by shit posters on message boards. Maybe we should not put all of our faith into what reality is constituted by AI. I know it's a crazy notion.
Right. The problem is not with the data. The problem is with wanting to use data, which is per definition from the past, in order to freeze those conceptions for the present and the future.
What do you propose be done? You have less than 3 minutes.
That is the problem. AI is never going to do anything different. All it can do is take those scripts, those patterns, recombine them, and spit them back to us. That looks new, but it isn't new.
You could have said that at the beginning and saved us 10 minutes worth of fluff. Please conclude.
So, in other words, AI is a fundamentally conservative technology.
Conservative? Uh-oh.
It's actually misleading to call it generative AI when you think about it.
I can do nothing but think about it.
It's not generative of anything. Certainly nothing new. It's conservative.
Yes, AI has no imagination, and...
So for AI, the way things are, or have been, is the only way they can be now, and the only way they can ever be. So if we want to change the world, if we want to end oppressions and push back on stereotypes, we have to come up with something different.
What? Lady, I hate to tell you this, but you already kind of proved that this entire talk and your worries are effectively invalid. You talked about the suffrage movement, right? People thought a particular way about women and women's roles in society and so on way back in the suffrage movement. How is that seen today? It's seen as archaic. It's seen as backwards, oppressive, stereotypical, sexist, and so on. Unless you're Ranting Monkey, where he says repeal the 19th Amendment, but that's a whole other thing. So what happened? Things changed. They changed without AI. They will change with AI. AI does not rule over us, at least not yet. We don't have a Skynet situation yet. And people operate separate from machines. I would wager that people will still possess imaginations of their own outside of what AI tells them, even with the existence of AI. And that unless you're a complete moron, you don't understand that AI is just regurgitating knowledge that may or may not be accurate. And the best thing to do is to consult more than one source to find your answers in life, and also to trust your own lived experience. But again, I'm still waiting. What do you propose be done to solve for this problem?
So what can we do? I mean,
That's what I've been wondering for 13 minutes of the thing and an hour of sitting here and yapping about it.
what can you and I do right now?
I don't know.
Well, I think we can do at least 4 things.
4 things? That sounds like a list. I'm going to circle a list. Oh, boy. Circling a list.
Let me just give you a couple of options here.
I love options.
The first thing that I think we should do is we have to understand how AI produces knowledge.
AI does not produce knowledge. It does not produce knowledge. It produces information. That's it. Or it gathers other people's knowledge and presents it to you. It doesn't produce. It reconstitutes, at best. Okay?
And that's what we're engaged in right now, right?
Uh-huh.
We're having this conversation.
We're not having a conversation. You're giving a lecture. You don't even know what you're doing.
Because that understanding is the first step toward not letting AI have so much power over the way that we conceptualize things.
Except that according to you, if AI was in existence, we would have never moved beyond, stone tools or something.
Oh, I can't conceive of anything that AI doesn't tell me. Golly gee whiz, Bob. I got this rock I'm using to hit this thing, and I wish there was a better way, but AI says the only things that you can use to hit things with are rocks. I guess I'm just stuck. Doot, 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 doot.
Just remembering how it builds its knowledge.
Uh-huh.
The second thing that we can do, and I think we must do, is push back against the hype of AI.
Okay. It took 13 minutes and 37 seconds, but you finally said something I agree with. Yes, push back against the hype of AI. Like people on TEDx talks saying that AI is going to constrain the human imagination simply by its existence. And that we have to solve for AI. I'm circling contradicts own point or fails to make argument. Good gravy.
Remember, AI is a fundamentally conservative technology.
You've said that twice now. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. What do you mean it's conservative?
So those people that are hyping up AI are
Yeah.
either unaware of, or worse, happy with the unjust way of the world, the unjust structures, the unjust conceptualizations.
What?
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Lady, I don't know. I was just saying this at the top of the show. I cannot count how many TEDx talks have been promoting AI to solve the climate crisis, to solve racial injustice, to solve the policing problem, to solve this, that, or the other, and the other thing. What are you talking? Good gravy. AI is a Republican conspiracy theory. AI will keep everyone frozen in time. Soon, we will travel back to the 1950s thanks to AI. Good gravy.
That are still in place in the world. So that's the reason that we have to push back against that hype.
But yet you're the one promoting AI as something that needs to be fixed in order to make queer kids comfortable about themselves. What?
That doesn't mean that AI isn't good for anything.
But you just said that AI is inherently evil and Ay, caramba.
It's good for a lot of things, but it's not good for human concepts.
AI is good for a lot of things, but it's not good for human concepts. Except that everything we know is a human concept. What? Our entire understanding of reality is a human concept. My carpet is a human concept. The pepper jack I'm drinking is a... What the... AI is a human concept.
Third thing that we have to do, I think, and we can do, is we have to introduce uncertainty into AI.
Oh, don't worry. I am already uncertain about AI. As I said, ask a question 3 times, get 3 different answers. There's plenty of uncertainty in AI, and you're definitely contributing to that.
When we recognize that AI's knowledges serve particular conservative purposes,
oh my God. AI is a right-wing tool for control, everyone. Just so you know. A technology that's derived from hippies.
these knowledges are not the only way for the world to be.
You don't say.
We have to find a way to signal that. AI does not have a monopoly over the truth.
Are you sure? Because you just told us that if AI existed throughout history, then nothing would have changed. You just told us that inherently AI stifles imagination. I don't even know what else to say. But man, she's going out with a bang on this one.
And finally, which I think is the most important point, we have to prioritize human creativity.
Oh, really? And is something stopping that?
Justice and progress come from humans coming up with radically new ideas.
Oh, you mean they are human concepts?
Imagining radically new things.
Which obviously we can't do anymore because AI exists. Because as you said, if AI had existed throughout history, then women would have never gotten the vote. Because human creativity stops where AI begins. Right?
That nobody has come up with before. New things that are transformative. And as we have just seen, AI cannot do this.
You're right. Unless AI makes a connection between things that hadn't previously been connected, because it's one of those things. I wish I could quote it from memory, but there is a passage from an H.P. Lovecraft story. I think it was Call of Cthulhu, and it went something like, the most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all of its contents. And that to do so would open up such vast vistas of madness. And basically, if you could, like in the movie, Limitless. You ever watch the movie Limitless? The whole theory behind that movie is a guy takes a drug and it allows all of his memories, all of his disparate thoughts, pieces of knowledge from everywhere in his life, they're at the ready at his fingertips, and all the connections are made at once. And he suddenly has this incredible network of knowledge just in his head immediately, and he's able to see things and make connections and leap to conclusions and new inspirations without any problems whatsoever. That kind of thing. So an AI could conceivably discover a connection that hadn't previously been seen or, widely understood by people, because it can sift through so much stuff at once at a speed and an efficiency that the human mind simply cannot. So it's not creating anything new, save for maybe a connection or an association. That's possible, I think. Not to get too technical about it.
So our future and the way that we want the world to look like is up to us.
You don't say.
So at the end of the day, we got to let humans play around and be creative. So thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to your thoughts.
Okay, I got some thoughts. What does any of that have to do with making a on the journey to deciding if they're queer kid more comfortable with themselves if they find results on an AI that are problematic. Oh, good gravy. Okay, moving on to the wonderful world of the bingo card. That was something else there. I kind of lagged there in the middle, and then at the end, holy cow, I don't even know where we were or what was going on at that point. But let's go to the bingo card. This is the card as I have it right now. I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. If you have any arguments for squares to be circled, please hold on to them. I'll get to you momentarily. Collectivize his own demographic. She never talked explicitly about herself, so can't say for sure. Sales pitch for product or service. I mean, it was kind of a lackadaisical coverage of AI, so I'm not quite sure if that was a sales pitch or a warning against. It was kind of both. But there was not any explicit product or service listed, so I guess we'll move on. Childhood or family anecdote. She never talked about herself. Diversity, equity, and or inclusion. Not to a degree that I would circle it for. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. Well, I mean, she did talk about... I don't want to stretch too far here, because she's talking about what an AI might produce versus reality, and is that an unconscious bias? Maybe. I don't know. Privilege, patriarchy, deceptive statistics. 51% of youth have used AI, 53% of that have used it for information. And I'm not quite sure what those statistics were supposed to tell us. Were they deceptive? I don't know if they were deceptive, but they might end up being a weightless example or non sequitur. Economic disparity. She didn't talk about economies. Feminism. She talked about the suffrage movement, so that is a form of feminism. So we'll circle that one. Marginalization. At the beginning, talking about our theoretical teenager who didn't feel like they belonged because they were deciding whether or not or how much queer they were. That was a weird way for her to put it. I'll circle that one. White supremacy. She talked about racism, but not explicitly white supremacy. Word salad. Yeah, that last bit, that last quarter of her talk or so was just all over the place. Self-vilification or wretchedness. I didn't notice any. Weightless example or non sequitur. Yeah, the statistics at the top, what a queer kid might or might not find on AI. The fact that the title of this, I don't think was ever fulfilled. Just because she thinks that AI is inherently a right-wing conservative stasis machine of knowledge, except that AI is constantly updating itself with information from the now, so not quite sure how that's supposed to work. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. Did I hear anything that was like new? I don't think so. Mind reading or assumes motives. Yeah, it assumes that people cannot think on their own, even in the existence of AI, that somehow all of human ingenuity, creativity, and debate would have stopped if AI had existed in the past. And consequently, it has to stop now that AI exists in the present. Right? Benevolent condescension. Yeah, people are just complete morons, which is not untrue in most instances, but also completely untrue in a lot of instances. Anecdote that probably never happened. I don't think she gave us any anecdotes. And leaves out vital context. Yeah, what are you talking about? Like, what does any of this have to do with anything? Where's your solution to the problem? Our solution is don't overhype AI. What? Anyway, okay, so that's the card as I have it. If you have arguments for squares yet to be circled, put them in the chat now. Please know that I am not actively ignoring anybody. And if I've missed your comment, just repost it. Just giving that forewarning. Advocata, she collectivized all of us in that we need to solve this issue to AI will do what she wants it to do. To AI will do. Give me an example. Give me an example from the talk where she collectivizes. I'm not saying she didn't. I just want to make sure that we've got some evidence for this. Let's see. Maidenhell, damn it, I've shown up at the end again. Hi, Scribe. Hi, Maidenhell. Well, don't worry. There's a rewind button or a, scan back button. Morgan King, feminism and patriarchy. Oh, because of the mention of the suffrage movement? Oh, that women can't do this. Oh, yeah, that men are... Oh, yeah, okay. No, you're right. Yeah, men are more assertive and women can't do... Yeah, in politics and... Okay. All right, you know what? That's true enough. I'll grant you that. I'll grant you that. Scrolling up a bit. Let's see. Professor R2. The AI might tell them that they're kids and maybe they don't have to identify with any radical agenda to feel loved. Yeah, it could. Or there could be a parent or caregiver around. You don't need to ask a machine for questions on life, the universe, and everything else. Mr. E. Triumvirate, the 51% statistic is a weightless example, not deceptive. Yeah, that's what I thought. It didn't sound like it was something meant to deceive, save for she started out talking about a potentially, a teenager who was questioning their sexuality, which is nearly every teenager in existence. It just wasn't related to what she was talking about. I don't think it was deceptive. It's sourceless, so it could be a lie or made up, but deceives nothing. Not deceptive. Yeah, I didn't feel like I was being deceived. It was just unrelated. It was detached from anything else that she was talking about. And of course, if AI is going to affect all of society, why focus just in on the youth? She just dropped that. She dropped that entire line of her presentation. Like, let me give you a scenario. A teenager doesn't quite know what to do about their sexuality, so they go to AI for answers. Did you know that a lot of teenagers use AI for information? Now let's move on to a whole bunch of other stuff and never mention teenagers again. That's great. K. Roberts, unconscious bias. Her repeated problem that all data is conservatively... that is true. Both it reflects her bias, but as a part of her presentation, it is also presenting an inherent bias. Very good. Thank you, K. Roberts. Advocatus. Privilege. Straight people have the privilege of being seen by AI. I know that was implied, but she never outright came and say it, did she? She didn't say it that way. I thought that she would. I mean, I think in the overall I was correct before the stream started, before the show started, where I was like, oh yeah, all the data sets are demonstrably heteronormative and therefore queer theories and ideas can't survive. She never really came out and said that though, did she? I mean, by all means, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see, scrolling up a bit, I hope I didn't miss anybody. I don't think so. Again, if I missed anybody's stuff, please just repost it. I am recovering from knee surgery and thought I would catch a good one. What a letdown. I get it. You take the good with the bad, though. I mean, it depends on your point of view, as Obi-Wan Kenobi said. On the one hand, it wasn't a very effective presentation. On the other hand, I got a few good laughs out of it. So, it might be the thinnest of silver linings. Also, stay off your knee. Take it easy. One day at a time. My mother had, surgery on both of her knees at different points in the recent past, and just by observation, thankfully not direct experience yet, though I'm sure my time's coming, not a fun thing. So best of luck on the healing process, Mr. E. Let's see. Kiro Soldier, hi Scribe, spent most of my day helping a friend move into a new place. Well, then you're a good friend. Unless moving into that new place was prison or something. But I guess even then you're a good friend. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just full of crazy jokes today. I blame the alcohol. Because why not? Let's see. Advocast. It was unsaid very loudly. Yeah. I get where you're coming from. I don't know. It's a bingo square. She didn't really say it out loud. Advocates definitely sales pitch for queer theory. That's not a bad. That's not a bad pitch. Let's have 2 minutes of queer theory. And by the end of it, did we have any idea what queer theory was supposed to have told us? Queer theory tells us, and I tell you what, if I go listen to any of the past streams I've done where someone decided to tell me what queer theory was, it wouldn't sound anything like that. It just wouldn't. Let's see. And that's after working earlier. Oh, I get it. No, I get it. You've had a full day. Relax. Take a load off. Get off thy feet for a bit. Any other arguments? But queer theory exists just to confuse you. Yeah, like I say, I think specifically back to that Chris Hoff interview with that family counselor talking about queering your therapy practice. And all I remember is that listening to that, I kept waiting for them to talk about what is queer theory? What does that mean? What does it mean to queer your therapy practice? What is therapy practice before you apply queer theory, and what does it look like afterwards? What would you say in a normal therapy session? What would you say after you've put it through a filter of queer theory? As far as I can recall, we never were given an explicit example of what that was supposed to be, which is what you have to do if you're going to say that. And they never did. So anyway, any other arguments for squares to be circled, guys? We are on the cusp of maybe a bingo or two, and I know this was kind of a one-track mind, repetitive kind of thing today. I thought there would be a childhood or family anecdote. I was looking for some kind of deceptive statistics, but I didn't really hear any. Let's see. Simon Wilkins. According to the Aeron storyline, billions of years ago there evolved a humanoid race called the Alphans who also thought AI could solve all their problems. And yet they don't exist today. I wonder what happened to them. All right, we got two arguments for privilege. Advocate us again. Privilege. All the data sets being used by AI focus on heteronormativity, which would mean straight people would have privilege using it. Okay, and Kay Roberts says privilege. She demands controlled the data inputs to AI or elimination of AI outright, other people's creations. I just wish she had completed one thought in this deal, right? It's like, oh, AI produces harmful output. And how do we solve for that? Oh, stop overhyping AI. But it's not going anywhere. All right, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. All right, the concept of a privileged viewpoint or a privileged data set was kind of an underlying theme to it. I'll grant you that. I'll grant you that. And so, as a result...
Bingo!
What? Bingo! Yeah!
Of course! Of course!
we have our first and perhaps only bingo for the night. Let's see. JPS, cue the video from Billy Madison where everyone is dumber for having to listen to it. No, we're not dumber for having listened to it. No, we used our critical thinking skills outside of the influence of AI to decide for ourselves that this presentation was utter and absolute nonsense. Also, yes, Morgan King, you remind me. WTF circle times 3. I don't know if it was times 3. I think it was only times 2. I think I only did it times... I think I said WTF in one way, shape, or form a few times, but I only hit the button twice. So I'll give you 2, though. I'll give you 2, but you are correct. I forgot to circle for the WTFs. There you go. And with that, guys, I think I'm going to draw it to a close here. Now, as always, if you have arguments for squares yet to be circled after the show is concluded, you can always leave a comment in the comments below. Or you can go talk about it over on the Discord server. Would you like to join the Discord server? Well, I have a Discord server. A link to the Discord server is in the chat right now. You just have to click on that link and you'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you're not a bot, certainly not AI, actually watch the stream and have thus earned the right, the entitlement, the privilege of joining the Discord server. And today's secret word is data. Now, like you're saying hello to a certain android on Star Trek. Just say, hello, data, and I'll know that you watch the show. Outside of that, you should find me tomorrow morning on Midnight's Edge in the morning at 9:05 a.m. Pacific Time, noon 05 p.m. Eastern Time, where we'll talk about movies and entertainment and box office stuff and all types of things. And maybe I'll have the opportunity to give my thoughts on Thunderbolts, the new Marvel movie, a video review of which I'll be producing now and or into tomorrow morning that you can watch at your own leisure in the near future. Outside of that, you can always find me here Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence. Oh, I suppose I should probably do a DEI Death Watch show tomorrow too, shouldn't I? I probably should. I probably will. Maybe I will? I don't know. It's been a long week, guys. It's been month-end billing and invoicing, and I've been running around doing a bunch of stuff. We'll see. Keep an eye on that X machine, and I'll let you know there and in the Discord whether there's going to be a DEI Death Watch tomorrow. I might take the day off from that. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, Advocast, what about Lore? You mean the podcast series by Aaron Mahnke? Besides, isn't Data's brother, isn't it just L-O-R? Is there an E in there as well? I thought Lore was just L-O-R. Maybe I'm mistaken. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, link at the top of the chat box. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. Hey, Professor R2, are you in Price of Reason doing a Quantum Leap episode here in the near future? Isn't that usually on Thursday nights? I think it's either right now or just or soon in the near future. Anyway, guys, if you like Quantum Leap, go check out Price of Reason's channel, Price of Reason Live, Price of Reason all one word, on the YouTube machine. And you can go listen to some nerds talk about Quantum Leap. Otherwise, everyone, I hope you have a good rest of your Thursday. Hope you have a good Friday ahead of you. Hope you have a good weekend as well. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.